Okay, I did. Just so you're aware, I invited our intern, Sophia.
Yeah, I saw your note about that.
Yeah, just in case you see her pop up.
So she definitely is interested, or is she still thinking about it?
No, she's interested. I'm just waiting on a confirmation from HR.
Great.
But yeah, if all goes accordingly, she'll start next Monday.
And how much time will she spend at the Board of Health?
We've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't nailed down anything definitive. It's kind of up to her. I mean, whatever
I s-
she needs or whatever she's looking for.
Yeah, there are probably certain course requirements, but I don't know how specific they would be. Does she have to do a paper or anything like that based on
I
what's?
don't think so. I don't even know that it's school related, to be honest.
Oh,
I
I
think
see.
she's already fulfilled her internship requirements. She's just kind of looking to gather more experience and seek out other opportunities.
Great. Well, that'll be fun to have somebody like that around.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Good.
Jason, did you do an internship as an undergraduate?
I did, but keep in mind, I went to school for kinesiology. So I interned at Holy Cross with the strength and conditioning coach.
I see.
So it was a cool experience. But as soon as I was done, I was like, I had a good time, but this is not a career I want to pursue.
Yeah.
You could have had an NFL ring.
I mean, that's true. That's one way to look at it. Yeah, I enjoyed that stuff as a hobby, but as a profession, just
Yeah.
hey, Gil. Nice to start our meetings now that it's still light outside. It makes you
Yes.
feel at least a teeny bit better.
But if we go a long time with one of our meetings, it could still be after dark when we end, so we have to be really careful.
Yeah.
Steve, do you miss having in-person meetings?
Not a bit.
You know, I had almost zero experience on the Board of Health with in-person meetings. I mean, maybe two before everything shut down and we went to Zoom. I can hardly remember them. So,
Well, there's no need to be nostalgic.
I don't think anyone meets in person now, do they? As far as our boards go?
In the town of Dover, it's quite rare.
trying to think. I feel as if
I
there's
don't
one that meets in person, isn't there?
The, the Carroll project might have met in person at one time. But then Witching hour is at hand.
Let's give him another minute and then start.
I have not heard from him.
Jason, you don't hear any background noise from the computer, do you?
I don't, should I?
No. Just wanted to be sure.
We thought you might have had a request.
Play music.
There he is.
Oh, great. So who's admitting people to be, what's the word? Not participants, but
That would be Suzanne.
Suzanne. All right. John, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Great. So we are ready to go. So we have let's see, it's 6:32. We'll open the meeting with a roll call. Kay Peterson, chair, present.
Steve Kruskall, member, present.
John Quackenbush, also member, also present.
Great. So why don't we begin? Here's what I would suggest about the order of the agenda, that we begin with citizen comments. That we then skip to number 5, the endgame tobacco discussion, and then we go back to talking about our next meeting and approving old minutes, and then go on with other items.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's have a citizen comment period, because I can see that there are 5 attendees here, assuming that they want to speak. One has his hand up. Suzanne, you'll take care of doing what you need to allow them to speak.
Yes, I'm pretty sure most of the attendees have joined that have sent letters for our number 5 on our agenda. So just
Okay.
double checking that people want to make citizen comment instead of comment during that item.
Yeah, Kay, if I may, do we want to?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone here for it, but if there's anyone just here for any public comments not pertaining to that item, probably want to give them an opportunity to speak before we dive into the tobacco stuff.
Okay. Are any of you here for, any of you who are attendees here for an issue other than the endgame tobacco discussion? If so, raise your hand right now and we'll move you to the head of the line. I don't see anyone. So,
Stephen has his hand raised, but I know he's here for tobacco.
yeah, so why don't we begin? We're going to talk about the endgame tobacco and what we're planning to do, but why don't we have the citizen comments about that first, unless any of you wants to wait and have them afterward.
So I see Stephen has his hand raised. If I see your hand raised, I'll send you an invitation to be a panelist where you can show your video and speak. And then once you're done, I'll demote you back to an attendee. So I'll go in order of who's raising their hands. So the first person to go is Stephen.
Good evening, Board of Health, and Jason, thank you for responding to my email so quickly.
Of course.
I represent Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights. We accept no funding from any source whatsoever. I am opposed to this generational tobacco and nicotine ban. It is really a form of stealth prohibition, similar to the prohibition that went for about 15 years in the early 20th century, or the war on tobacco. I think will have many unintended consequences. And it is about getting to total tobacco and nicotine prohibition, which one proponent calls, quote, a slow burn for people not paying attention, end of quote. Everybody says, all the proponents say this is all for the kids, but the data seems to indicate that younger people are not interested in tobacco and nicotine products. September 24th, the FDA of last year announced that smoking is at a 25-year, among youth, is at a 25-year low, and vaping is at a 10-year low. January 25th of this year, when the FDA authorized 20 different kinds of Zyn nicotine pouches, the agency also reported that teen use remains low. So if the tobacco companies are trying to attract youth, they are not succeeding. This is clear. And we in Massachusetts allow adults to use their own judgment whether to purchase intoxicants like marijuana or alcohol. I think we should also permit persons over 21 to use their judgment to purchase tobacco or nicotine products, which are not intoxicants. And nicotine, in fact, and the literature supports this, actually enhances cognition and enhances motor skills such as driving. It seems really inconsistent to allow so many stores to sell alcohol and marijuana, which interfere with driving and cause accidents, and to forbid, again, with this total prohibition, which will come about in several years, nicotine and tobacco products. I would also like to point out that most of the stores selling these products are owned by immigrants of color. And I know that it will not shut their businesses down, but it will seriously hurt their business and devalue their businesses. And a Brookline merchant in the Globe last Friday mentioned that his cigarette sales have gone down 50%. His gas, he operates a gas station, is down 10%. And a lot of
time to wrap up.
Okay, and a lot of his customers who are over 21 find it very difficult not to get it. I think this proposal is overly restrictive and reduces individual autonomy for adults, and I ask you not to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll have the next person speak. I'd ask that you not repeat things that people who've spoken before you in this meeting have already said. So, and to keep your words to under 3 minutes. 3 minutes or under. Who's next?
Up next is Jonathan. Jonathan, I sent you an invitation to rejoin as a panelist if you'd like to accept it. Okay. Might be something to do with internet connection. It says he will be rejoining as a panelist.
Yeah, it looks
Hey,
as-
thank you. Thank you for making me a panelist. Hi, my name is Jonathan. I do some statewide mental health advocacy, and I'm a long time smoker myself. I absolutely love to smoke. You know, I, you know,
Jonathan, you may want to turn off your video since you seem to be having
again,
some
I
bandwidth
just would.
problems.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're freezing.
Okay, yeah, I know. I think my cellular connection's not as great as I thought it was.
So you might consider turning off your video.
Sure. All right, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That seems
sounds
better.
All right, no problem. Yeah, so anyway, I've smoked for years. I'm in, different forms of recovery, and coffee and cigarettes have always been the best rallying cry for recovery. And I would rather you aren't restricting, especially tobacco products. I prefer that people are allowed to smoke, and I think that's a real key to holding honest work, becoming intelligent, holding work that helps others. I think if you take away people's right to smoke and or have a smoke break, I think that would be in some ways discrimination and completely unfair. So I'm sorry about the problems with the connection, but please don't approve nicotine-free generation and being on a bunch.
Jonathan, thank you for your thoughts, and we did hear you well without the video on, so I appreciate your coming to the meeting and sharing your thinking.
Thank you.
And do we have another speaker, Suzanne?
Yep, up next is Alex Weatherall.
Hi, thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thanks very much for having me. I attended Board of Health meeting a couple of months ago, and you gave me very graciously an opportunity to talk. I own the Sherborne Market, and I gather you're not having an open meeting discussion once this agenda item comes up, so I'll be very brief right now. I just wanted to reiterate that from my perspective as a owner of a gas station, convenience store, prepared food business very close to Dover, my sense about NFG is it's 99% performative, and I'll give you some data from my own experience. It's hard these days for a convenience store to grow sales because we're pushing against the impressive and I would say gratifying decline in the consumption of nicotine-based products, and for me that's combustible tobacco in the form of cigarettes, cigars, and really nicotine pouches. And for the 131 days through yesterday, I thought you'd be interested to hear 131 days through yesterday, my sales of packs of cigarettes versus the same 131 days last year are down 3.85 packs a day, which is just remarkable. So my message is, from a retailer who knows from experience, the rules that are in place that are very well thought through are already doing the job. So almost 4 packs a day I'm down from just a year ago. But here's what's even more impressive. Compared to 10 years ago, for the first 131 days of 2015, my daily sales of cigarette packs in Sherborne, in a tiny little C-store, you all may not even have driven past, are down 20.33 a day. So the simple fact is, consumption of nicotine-containing products is dropping like a rock without NFG. And in my experience, which is pretty extensive, this NFG initiative is almost purely performative. It won't have any effect. But what it will do is make life even more unpleasant for people like me who have one more thing to think about. You know, the industry itself, the last thing I'll say in closing, the industry itself, which I am no fan of, has done a marvelous job of forcing people out of the business. Altria, which is Marlboro, I'll just give you an example. They raise prices like clockwork 4 times a year. And that's in January, April, July, and October. Sure as the sun comes up, I get a notice saying, take your prices up 16, 17, 18, 20 cents a pack. And so, you know, you want to buy a pack of a Marlboro today, it's almost $15 a pack. Now, I don't smoke, but I'm aware that there's no secret why consumption is down because it's unbelievably expensive. We don't need NFG. It's performative, and I hope you'll decline to take that path. Thank you very much.
Alex, I have a question for you. Do you have a minute? Are you still there, Alex?
Oh, yes, I am. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
What data do you have about your sales of nicotine pouches this year compared to last?
Well, you know, and I said this last time, it's hard for me to say. You know, people are discouraged. The one brand that people love is Zyn. And one of the previous speakers from Cambridge pointed out rightly, one of the reasons it's so popular is A, it's very high quality. I think it's a Swedish product bought by Philip Morris International not too long ago. And so it's got a hell of a lot of traction in terms of experience in Europe. And so they know what they're doing. And I mentioned before, it's generally tradesmen, late 20s to mid 50s, desperate to quit smoking who use it. And we have a very hard time in this state staying in stock. And the reason, Kay, is that, you know, with the Massachusetts ban on flavors, cynically, it just doesn't make sense for Sweetest Match and their owner, Philip Morris International, to divert their insufficient inventories, which, you know, insufficient relative to all 50 states, to a state in which only 2 of the SKUs are legal, if that makes sense. So it's hard for us to stay in stock. And as a result of that, my sales are down significantly, which is frustrating.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? I don't see any hands up. Suzanne, are you in agreement with that?
Yep, I don't see anybody else's hands up for this subject, so last call.
Okay, so why don't we continue our discussion about that? Jason, do you want to talk about your view of what our choices are at this point? And
Yeah, sure. And thank you to all the speakers. If any of you are still hanging on, we appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, so we've kind of had this on the last couple of agendas. If you recall, last month had a ton of speakers, of course. We kind of left off without a definitive plan of attack. So I was hoping we could try and establish that tonight, just so we can have a plan for going forward. So the way I look at it is we kind of have 3 options here. Number 1, we can hold a formal hearing strictly for feedback. With the caveat being if after that hearing we decide we do want to continue to move this thing forward, we would then have to have another hearing prior to actually adopting any, you know, proposed amendments or anything of that nature. The second option is to do it all in one hearing, draft proposed amendments, something that we all agree on, hold the hearing, followed by a vote, whether we want to, you know, adopt it or not. Third option would be we drop the whole thing altogether and just, you know, decide definitively this is not something we want to pursue at this time. So to me, if we can have some type of vote tonight to just kind of decide which direction we want to go with this, that way we have a game plan we can actually roll with, that would kind of be my goal at this point.
I agree. I think we need to move along
Yep.
Yep.
in whatever direction. Steve,
I make a motion that we drop the whole thing altogether. I have spoken to not a great number of people, but a certain number of people in Dover, being fully aware that the people who spoke today were not Dover residents, nor anyone else in Dover has spoken in favor of this, at least at our meetings. And I agree with a number of the points that were made today. It just doesn't seem something that we should be doing. If the state wants to do it, God bless them, but I don't think at this level, given the impact it would have, which would be totally performative and not much more, I think we should just drop it.
So, I've thought about this a lot. I go back and forth. I actually think this is a good opportunity to see if people in town actually do have some thoughts about it. I like the option of holding a public hearing and letting people make comments. I think we'd have to advertise it. And I think that's one of the problems we have without too many people coming here, coming to this meeting, is that they don't necessarily know what the topic is. So I think if we um, did make this more widely known, maybe took out an ad in the Hometown Weekly, tried other avenues to try to advertise that we were going to have a meeting focused on this, we'd at least get feedback. And I can see some of your concerns, Steve. I also think it's important to hear from the residents of the town, and we haven't gotten a lot of feedback from them.
Well, we haven't in official capacity at these meetings, but I've made the effort to speak to people, and I haven't found one person in favor of it, including people who would ordinarily be in favor of all sorts of progressive causes.
And John, just to follow up quick on what you said about the publishing in the newspaper. Typically, you would post it for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Prior to whenever the proposed hearing is. So in this case, we would certainly do that. I'd want to hear from some folks at the schools. I'd want to hear from the selectmen. I'd want to hear from our license holders. So each of those people would receive invites as well, just so we can try and capture, as many of those key stakeholders as we can.
so my my opinion is that I support this, and I think it's a good idea, but I agree that it would be good to hear from more people about it. I have spoken to people, not very many, but a few people who've been supportive, but it's that's just a very limited sample. So I think publicizing it, and particularly trying to publicize this to some of the younger people in town would be great.
I have a
Let's go
motion
then.
on the floor. Is that not seconded?
Say it again, Steve.
I have a motion on the floor. Is that not seconded?
Your motion was to drop it, Steve, to
Yes.
table it? I'm not going to second that. I'm sorry.
Nor am I.
I think it's important for us to hear from members of the town and to advertise it. And you very well may be right. This may just go away, but I think it's important to give people in the town the opportunity to comment and provide feedback. So Jonathan wrote a question in the question and answer, and I would just respond. Jonathan, I understand your perspective, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us. Jonathan asked if we would drop it, sort of in tune with Steve's motion to table this. I feel that it's important just to get feedback from people who live in town. But I do appreciate you joining and sharing your experience and your thoughts.
So are we opting to kind of split the difference here and go with option one, which is hold the hearing strictly for feedback only?
Um,
And so I guess too, just to give a little bit more clarification on that. So we've been through a couple of regulation changes since I've been here. Process typically looks like you put together a draft, you post your hearing, you hold your hearing, allow public comment, and then at the close of the hearing, you have your vote. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that same meeting, but it follows that hearing at some point. This option number one, we wouldn't necessarily have a draft or anything ready to go, ready to be voted on. This would simply just be us saying, hey, Dover Board of Health is seeking input on nicotine-free generation. Please attend or send messages to this email, and come speak on such and such date at this time. So it would be more of that type of thing. It would be more, general is not the right word, but I think you kind of know what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
and then we would presumably talk after that hearing about what we learned and whether we want to proceed after that. I don't mean that we would have a vote right then, but we would decide at that point whether to have a hearing at which we would then vote on our regulation. Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one caveat. That's the one downfall to this option. Say we have this hearing and decide we want to move forward, we would then have to have a second hearing. And, with the actual draft ready to go, allow people to be heard again, and then have our vote whether we want to adopt it or not.
Right. So, I looked at the draft you circulated, and, the amendments that you're proposing, I think, are pretty minor. This draft came from, okay, yeah. I mean, these are relatively minor modifications on the existing regulation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a matter of tweaking dates and things of that nature. It's
Yeah.
really not anything groundbreaking.
And it's consistent with what other communities have done that have done this by regulatory change.
Yeah, actually, some of the language is taken directly. So
So, do you think we should vote on our next step then?
Well,
Okay.
I think there are two potential options moving forward, right? One would be to have just an information session. One would be to look at the draft that Jason sent and decide whether or not we wanted to accept the proposed changes. And, as he explained, they are pretty minimal and really just represent changes in dates, and they're consistent with the ordinances in other towns. And yeah, from my perspective, I'd rather have a single meeting. I think we'd probably generate a lot more interest if we did that. I think a lot of the people that Steve has talked to might be interested in coming and voicing their opposition to this. People are in favor of it, knowing that it is really an opportunity to be heard, might get them to come out too. So, having said that, what I would do is I would move that we accept the changes that Jason has proposed and schedule a public hearing with the idea that if after that discussion we felt it was important to move forward, we could pass this as a change to the town bylaws
In that same meeting, you're saying, John?
in that same meeting. I don't know, if you'd feel better holding off and having two meetings, I'd be happy with that too.
I guess the question is, is there any point to holding off? I'm not sure that there is. I mean,
I will say too, town council would still have to review our proposed amendments, so.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why too, I wanted to plan just in case. You'll notice on the agenda, our next meeting is the end of June, just because I wanted to give us enough time to get everything sorted, just in case we had to.
So that would be-
you know, we would need to approve minutes, or excuse me, not minutes, the draft, you know, conditional on town council's approval or, you know, something along those lines.
we could do that tonight. We could approve the draft.
That,
to
I
be
mean,
s-
that's up to you guys. I sent it out a week or two ago. I don't really know where everyone stands on it, so I don't want us to feel like we have to rush on that if we're not comfortable.
The only path to getting this resolved. Let me back up and say, if we're not going to dismiss it tonight, then the only path to resolving it at our June meeting is to approve the language of the regulatory change tonight so that Nina, town council, can then review it between now and June 23rd. Because we would have to have that language ready for that meeting,
And the Board of Selectmen too.
and the Board of Selectmen too. Well, they don't have to approve a regulation change.
They do not, but I mean, just as a courtesy, I'd at
Yeah,
least want some
yeah.
input from them.
Absolutely.
Or again, I mean, we could do door number one, and it's, you know, we just move forward with the hearing for the feedback, and we don't necessarily have to have the draft ready to go, which takes a little bit of the pressure off of this group. It buys us a little bit more time to get that nailed down. But you know, it's up to you guys.
I would be fine either way, either with number one or number two.
So I would rather do this in one fell swoop. That's my bias. And again, I think the greatest chance we have of generating interest is to make this as efficient for people in town as possible too.
I would be on board with that. I think there's a value in moving this ahead and moving our decision ahead and getting this resolved one way or the other.
Yeah. And people in town may be opposed to it. People in town may be very supportive of it. I think it's important to hear from them.
Yeah.
And you know, if we give them a straw man, you know, we could always potentially in that meeting amend it further if it was necessary. I think I think it'd be very useful just to get this out there and get them, yeah, get people's feedback.
Yeah, and what you're saying is that if, let's say, something came up in the meeting that made us want to amend, we wouldn't be forced to vote on it. Then we could take it back to Nina and
Yeah.
delay another month.
Yep. So again, I move that we adopt the proposed changes in the draft that Jason shared, and provide this to the town council and to the Board of Selectmen and move forward with a public meeting to discuss implementing nicotine-free generation here in Dover.
Second. All in favor? Aye, Kay Peterson.
Hi, John Quackenbush.
No, Stephen Kruskal. With this vote, I feel like the people of Massachusetts in 1972 who voted for McGovern.
Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have consensus. Is there anything else to say about this right now?
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you guys are good with where the draft stands currently, then that's what we roll with through all this.
Sounds good. Thank you for your work in putting it together, Jason.
Of course.
I'm on board with the draft also. Okay,
All right, well, should we talk about next meeting then? If
yeah, let's do that.
good transition.
Is June 23rd good for everyone?
I think the following week is the 4th of July week, so I think that's kind of how we ended up landing on that date.
June 23rd would work for me.
June 23rd would not work for me, but you should be encouraged by that, I suspect.
I would prefer a different date, although I could make it work, but 23rd isn't the greatest.
Are you out of town all week, Steve?
Yes,
Okay.
Santa Fe Opera, interested?
I would love to go. Are you asking me?
So.
I mean,
um,
are we married to doing it on Monday, or is there a different day that we could do?
Which week are you talking about?
Any week.
I'm not married to Monday.
Nor am I, but that week of the 23rd, I'll be away. But I could attend a meeting.
Well, I mean, so what about the 30th? Is everyone around that day?
Do you think that would affect our town resident participation in the meeting?
From here on, anything will, until the fall.
That's a good point.
Is a good point.
Well, maybe the thing to do then is to provide this to Nina, provided to the Board of Selectmen, but yeah, maybe discuss it in September.
I kind of think so too.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we could do in the very short term is talk to people in the schools before the schools are dismissed to see if there are students who would be interested in the topic.
That's a great idea. I mean, that would give students the opportunity to participate.
All right. So we're kicking the can down the road again.
But with intention, right? To really get some town participation, which I think
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
ultimately the most important thing at this point.
Yeah. So we'll put this on the agenda for maybe our meeting in September. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Makes
mean,
sense.
that'll, assuming you guys don't want to meet in the summer, which is one of our other topics for tonight. September is going to be our next meeting anyway, so.
Good point. And by the way, the Labor Day is the 1st, so it'll be the 8th. All right, so we're in agreement with that, Steve. I know you're not in agreement with pursuing it further, but I assume, given the circumstances, you're comfortable with delaying till September.
Yes.
Okay. All right, shall we move on to our minutes?
Yes.
Um, who has edits?
I just want to acknowledge before you guys go over it that I messed up a lot of the attachments and I've fixed those since then. I was reading it over right after I sent it to you all and realized that I had attachments all over the place, so those have been fixed.
Okay. I have a couple of nitty things. So-
Nitpicky.
Nitpicky. Suzanne, you talked about the nicotine-free generation regulation, and I like that phrase in the first paragraph and in the first paragraph on the second page. I would just add the word regulation after nicotine-free generation. You see what I'm,
Yep, I see what you're talking about.
everywhere else you say nicotine-free generation regulation, which I think reads well.
That has been fixed.
Okay. So, number 7, the animal inspector nomination. When we report a vote in our minutes, how should we do it? It's straightforward if it's unanimous, but in this case, John moved to approve Jennifer's appointment. I seconded the motion. And Steve rejected the motion. Is there a different way to phrase this? Because the motion and the seconding of the motion is different from the vote itself. This is real, again, nitpicky, but I don't know what's proper.
You don't have to report on the vote of a motion, but you do have to report individual votes on the actual vote. But the proposal to have the motion was different than a final vote, wasn't it? Or was there only a single vote on this?
No, I mean, it was moved and like, the motion only has to be moved and seconded before you go to a vote.
And that
So-
doesn't require a breakdown of who voted for it, but the
Yeah.
vote does.
I mean, just the tally.
Yes. Well, actually, I'll stand on record as having opposed it. I don't want to be opaque.
Well, that's not my point. I'm just, should we be saying that the motion passed 2-1? Reporting more on the vote, because the only thing about the vote that's mentioned about the vote is your or no vote. There's no,
Well, the final vote should be reported.
okay, so it should say then, well, we can, Suzanne, you want to write something like the motion passed 2-1?
Do you want your vote recorded, Steve, or you just
I
want
don't
the?
have any problem with it.
Okay.
We're being recorded as we speak.
Yeah, but I guess to your point, Kay, maybe in the future we can simplify it a little bit, just make it a little bit cleaner, just if there are any votes, you say vote 2-1, member Kruskull opposed, and just keep it short and to the point.
Yeah, I think the number should be there for every vote. that
Yeah.
takes place. Okay. I feel as if I had one other thing, hang on. On page 4, Kate Silbaugh's comments. About in the middle of that paragraph, she notes is still within a period of brain development. I would say a key period of brain development.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat what page that was on?
Page 4.
Page 4. Okay. And I'm sorry, you said it's
Um,
notes.
Just insert the word key, K-E-Y, before the word period.
Okay.
That's everything.
Another thing in that paragraph, I didn't have the article or source from the Surgeon General that they were referring to.
Oh, is that why you highlighted it?
Yeah, I didn't know if anybody knew of I mean, I found things online that related to it, but I didn't know if we wanted to even insert anything if we didn't have the source that they were using.
I don't think so. I think if it's not submitted at that meeting, that it shouldn't be included as an attachment, but we could add something to our drive about the topic if we find something from the Surgeon General.
Okay.
Okay, so motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, I.K. Peterson.
Hi, Stephen Kruskall.
Aye, John Quackenbush.
Very good. Can I just go back to the calendar? John, you raised the question about Monday meetings. Are we still okay with continuing on Mondays?
Yeah, Mondays are generally good for me.
They are for me too, Steve.
Better than any other day.
And everybody else, Jason, Gail, Suzanne, are Mondays fine for you?
Yeah, Mondays are good for me.
Good for me.
Okay. All right, let's move to item number 6, webpage updates. Jason, do you want to lead this? Start it off?
Sure, actually, Suzanne, would you like to share those if you could, please?
Yeah, do you have a preference on which one to start with? I have-
Dealer's choice.
Okay.
Surprise us.
Okay.
Pick one at random.
So we
All right.
have, yeah, so just while she's getting that set up, just to kind of go over it quick. We have 3 write-ups proposing to add to our Board of Health webpage. Just wanted to get some input from the board members before they went live. Can you all see this here?
Yes.
This is a write-up I believe Steve had worked on with Suzanne regarding vermiculite. So I'm correct on that, I think, Steve, right? You worked on this
Yes.
with Suzanne? Yeah, so the concern, I guess, on this obviously is it's asbestos containing material. So putting up some type of messaging regarding asbestos, certainly I'm in favor of. So just seeking input from the board on this before we go live with it.
Do we have anything else about asbestos on or do we have anything already about asbestos on our webpage?
I don't believe we ever have, to my knowledge.
Not that I know of either.
Do you think we should be doing something about asbestos that's bigger than this one point about it? Because there's I think, I mean, people have asbestos. Asbestos can occur in a number of situations in older houses, particularly flooring and insulation around pipes. I think vermiculite insulation is used in walls, right? Is that
Ceilings.
ceiling? Is it in those tiles?
It's in
Ceiling?
those little particles that may drop down when you open the trap door to the ceiling.
Um, what do you think about the idea of the topic being asbestos in the home? Or as a more generic, I don't mean generic, but as a broader topic that includes all the ways that asbestos can be of concern in a home.
We can certainly expand this about, I think this suffices for the moment, but there are a number of older homes in Dover that have asbestos. Significant number. And there's also a number of homes in Dover that have a radon issue.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see us address asbestos on our webpage. I think it's a great idea.
Definitely.
And
Yeah,
We-
it seems that putting this up right now would be good, but it could use a little preamble, just talking about it's short paragraph talking about the dangers of asbestos.
yeah, what are the risks? And
Yeah, because it says vermiculite insulation and asbestos, and there's no.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm happy to
Since-
write something up and then share it with everybody.
sounds good.
Or it
Yeah,
could even
and
be.
we
shared
don't
doc-
necessarily have to, sorry to cut you off, Suzanne. We don't necessarily have to vote or formally approve this or anything at the meeting. I just, since we had a couple drafted, I just, as a courtesy, wanted to share with you guys, get your input. We can always just put a pin in this, and this is something we can work out and get something finalized offline.
Pretty hard to find some good graphics that are about asbestos.
Just insert a picture from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's a good one.
Should I share the next?
Yes, please.
Okay. So John had sent me some information regarding ticks. So this is a document. This is all the same information on that current PDF we have. It's not in the same format just because of the way I was trying to edit the PDF. It didn't want to transition it the way it looked. But the added words are just in blue. It's not a lot of different information. There was a lot of good information on there. I just sort of took the pieces that sort of tied into what we already had. And then, sorry if I'm going too fast. I didn't know if we wanted to keep the same format, but then I just put together, this is all the same words that are on that document I just showed, but just in more of like an infographic format. And then at the bottom of our infographic, just because I had a lot of space left over at the bottom, but I had an idea that I floated by Jason about a Google form, like an anonymous form, where if you get bitten by a tick, you just sort of write the area where you were, just sort of to keep track of if there are certain areas that are more dense with tick populations, but I'm happy to change anything or add anything that you guys want.
Suzanne, does this incorporate the suggestions that you and I discussed?
The study with the UMass professor?
No, in terms of the document you sent, I think, out to us individually. And then I assume you made some changes that have appeared here. But does it include the discussions that we had?
In that one email thread, you mean?
No, we had
In the office when you
in the
came in?
office, we had discussion.
I'm having a hard time recalling
What were
the,
you talking about, Steve?
Well, I know enough about ticks to be dangerous, so I offer my 2 cents. I've been on cable TV and other sources quoted regarding tick-borne disease. And ticks right now are in Dover, perhaps at an all-time high. So I think that it's consistent with what I've been saying about having a banner continually posted during at least 6 months regarding the tick danger in town, and also suggesting to people that they have medication in their cabinet if it would prevent certain types of tick-borne diseases.
The preventative dose of doxycycline was actually in the previous document that you guys already had, so that's still on here. Did you want me to include anything else? I mean, the banner, I know is sort of separate from this.
I think this looks really good, Suzanne. Could you go back to the original document you showed where you edited it?
Yep.
The only thing I would do is I would just say, we have the date of 2022, and I would just add, semicolon updated and, put a date from this year on it.
Okay.
So is the idea that we would have both the PDF and the infographic on our website?
I'm not married to that infographic. So
I
if you
think it's
guys
pretty
just wanna
good.
keep the same format, I'm happy to just scrap that. That's totally
No,
fine.
you did a great job on that. I think we should keep it.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I mean, there are kinds of people who look at one document and kinds of people who look at the other.
And
So,
this document we're looking at, just to be clear, this, if I'm not mistaken, is if you scan the barcode on the tick banner, this is the document you get brought to you.
Yeah,
Correct.
but we can always change that too.
That's true. Yeah, that's easy enough to do.
Does the cat approve, Steve?
It sounds like
He's
it.
apologizing for appearing late. He was delayed.
Trying to
never-
gather up some people to talk about smoking.
he's never had so much to say, ever.
No, but I mean, I agree with Steve. Ticks seem to be a real issue, and the more messaging we can get out, the better, in as many different formats as we can. So, whatever we can blast out there, I think it is beneficial to our town.
Just a comment, I get reporting through Maven at least one a day, either in Dover or Sherburne. And Sherburne has had the most cases so far. And it's people who I've talked to that have had it before and impacted again.
So, I'm really curious, Gail, because I was going to raise this after we completed this discussion about stuff on the website. But do you know where these bites are happening?
So someone I spoke with today, it was on her property. Couple people just in their own backyard. Others are hikers or have outdoor work that they're doing.
You have a sense, Gail, that people are using permethrin treated clothing?
I don't ask about that more. I haven't asked that, and I could in the future. Everyone I've spoken to seems very familiar what to look for, checking their clothing, showering right away, and then getting in touch with a clinician when symptoms start or if they notice any bites.
It's the out-of-towners that I worry about as well. People who are hiking in our woods and what have you, and aren't even seeing the banner, and going back to places more urbanized than ours and being unaware of what they might have incurred in the way of a tick bite. And we do have some responsibility to those folks, as well as our own citizens.
Is there any signage at Carroll Park or anywhere at Noanette?
There used to be a small metal sign near the tennis courts at the entrance there. I haven't seen any other signage.
I wonder if we could talk to the trustees or to the town about Carroll Park about putting up a sign that has the QR code that would link to our website.
The DLCT as well.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things I was wondering, and this is what I wanted to bring up, is whether or not if Parks and Rec do any kind of spraying for ticks.
It's not effective, unfortunately. I did have a discussion with Jason about possibility of our having a summer intern who would repeat some of the studies that were done about 15 years ago that we did in conjunction with Sam Telford at UMass. And that gave us a little bit of an indication as to both the population of ticks in our town and the locations are same, as well as what at the time, though tick-borne diseases, those ticks were carrying. But I suspect now that that spectrum may have changed, and that I think we ought to have some information about that, because if we end up dealing with ticks that have powassan and alpha gal, then it gets a little scarier.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing got me thinking about this was the story in the Boston Globe. I put the the cat's driving the train now. The Boston Globe, there's a story about powassan and someone being diagnosed with it today.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about it. So
Very sobering article.
yeah.
I mean, I agree that it would be interesting to know what our ticks carry, for instance, but I think you have to assume that that any of the tick-borne illnesses around here is possible. And I asked the question about permethrin treated clothing because from what I read, and from my personal experience, it's a very effective way of preventing tick bites. Not very widely accepted.
So I'll echo that as well. I have here a very large bottle of permethrin that we use for our clothing when we go out in our backyard. I also have a pair of manufactured tick gaiters to put on when I go in my backyard. Between the two, there's a considerable difference in the number of ticks we end up on us.
Yeah,
wearing them and not wearing.
I agree. I once, back when we had a dog, I took a live tick off the dog and I dropped the tick onto a shirt I had that I'd put on the kitchen counter. It was a permethrin treated shirt. And this tick walked around for a minute or so, and then it looked like it was having seizures, and it just basically flipped over and died within about 3 minutes. It was very impressive.
Yeah.
But I read something just yesterday about the recommendation that you can spray your footwear with permethrin, and that keeps it's just another sort of layer of protection.
Yes.
So I feel as if no matter what the pathogens are in our ticks, that the answer is the same: prevention, prevention, prevention.
Yeah.
Gail, are you hearing about do you hear about cases other than Lyme? I mean, tick-borne diseases other than Lyme?
Anaplasmosis.
Uh-huh.
There have been 2 cases.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay if I stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So, my suggestion is that we put the graphic up on the page. That we get when we scan it. Can we put, you know what I would do actually, Suzanne, is I would modify the PDF to put the graphic first and then have the text below. That way you cover both bases. It, it will catch people's attention. And if they want more information, it'll all be down there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It
that
does
makes sense.
And then, so maybe the intern can work on a lot of the nuts and bolts of this kind of campaign, and maybe also work on asbestos as well. Move us ahead with these initiatives. I mean, not that we're not moving ahead, but with one more person working on sort of designing a campaign would be really,
By the
helpful.
way, Sophia is on the meeting. You just can't see her. She's an attendee.
oh, great.
If she wants to, not to put you on the spot or anything, Sophia, but you can join us as a panelist if that's okay with the group, just so we can see you if you want to introduce yourself.
That would be great if she joins us.
And I have to apologize to her too, because I may have promised her she didn't have to speak, but here we are and she's going to be speaking. So
She didn't have to speak. She can just look happy.
Hi, my name is Sophia. Hi, it's nice to meet all of you.
Hi, Sophia.
yeah, I figured since we were talking intern stuff, may as well have her come in. Thank you for joining us, Sophia.
Yeah.
It's harder to give you all the jobs if we can actually see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to work on whatever you need. I'm more than happy to.
Great. And I think we still are on for next Monday. I am, just so you know, I'm waiting to hear back from HR. So just in case we need to audible last second or anything, I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Now, wasn't there another topic for the webpage? Another
Yeah, there was. Thank you, Kay. Yeah, we had a measles write-up as well.
That's another really important one to have a lot about out there.
Would you like me to share my screen for the measles one, or did you guys want to look at it individually on the drive?
No, please share it.
Sure.
Does this imperil our federal funding?
Can you guys all see that?
Yep.
Let me see if I can zoom out to get the
So
entire thing.
who did the graphics?
I was
DPH,
not part of this.
What did you say, Gail?
DPH sent it.
Oh,
We thought this one was good just because travel season is coming up and there are very specific recommendations and advice with international travel. So I shared this with the school nurses and the Dover Mothers Association too.
so I have a question. See, can you enlarge it, Suzanne?
Yep.
See, the column of what to do before international travel. It says, I can't read it. Everyone 12 months and older, including adults, should get 2 total doses before travel. I guess that I was confused by that, but it means as long as you've had two doses before you travel, you're fine, right? It doesn't mean that everybody should be vaccinated before they travel. Well, we can talk about it later.
This came from the CDC?
It looks like it's
CDC, yeah, and through DPH.
Well, it's very hard for me to read on the screen, but certainly like to take a look at it before we.
The point of getting this out is just to make people aware that, especially if you're traveling internationally, you may be in countries where people are not vaccinated. So.
Well, we're in a country right now where some people aren't vaccinated.
Well, locally we're okay, but this point was that people should be up to date on their vaccines for measles.
Yeah.
I put the link for the graphic in the chat, Steve. And if you look in the main page, it's on the right-hand side. You can get it as a PDF. Yeah, I think this is great. And I think you're right, Gail. The sooner we get it up, the better.
I do think it's confusing about what people who are already vaccinated adequately should be doing. I think it implies, or you could understand that you should get get vaccinated for measles even if you already are, based on this. But let's talk about it. I have to think about it more.
Yeah, I mean, we can always, we can edit the PDF a little bit too.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop
Well-
sharing my screen.
It's okay, I agree with you on this graphic, on the text.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't trust messaging from the CDC anymore.
Well, this may have been before the new regime, but
Yeah.
but I would imagine, I'd be surprised if it's still there at this point.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll take a look at that. And
Yeah, so we'll get all three of those, we'll get them a little cleaned up before we go live with them. We'll figure it out offline.
all right. All right, moving on then. Anything else about the web updates? I think it's fantastic that we've got 3 major updates here.
Yeah, and even outside of the the 3 write-ups we just showed, Suzanne updates the website constantly. So if I don't know how often you guys check it out, but it's changing almost daily. Just try to keep it updated with the most up-to-date info and anything else we can post to get messaging out there. So it's really come a long way from the early days.
Have you heard about any way in town that people can learn how many hits they're getting on their web pages? Does the town system allow that?
They certainly should.
That's a good question.
Maybe it's a question for Chris.
Is that something you really want to know? Would you actually want to know how many people are going to our Board of Health website every day?
I mean, I'd be so depressed.
I don't.
Kate
I
would
don't
be
want you to
clicking
be.
it every
I don't want you
day.
to be sad with the results.
Well, I would like to know on a monthly basis.
Yeah, we can ask. We can find out.
Yeah. I don't know that, I mean, not every, I know nothing about this, but I know that sometimes you can learn this, but I don't know if the town's information system has that capability.
Don't be sad when I give you the answer, though.
Okay, I won't be sad. Okay, so we talked about summer meetings. I'm gonna move on. Public health nurse scale.
We haven't forgotten you, Gail.
I know. I'll start off with CPR because at the last meeting, we were doing a hands-only demonstration at the town benefit fair, and it got a great response, a lot of engagement. As follow-up to that, we are in the process of scheduling CPR for town employees to be scheduled in June. We have approximately 30, and I'm waiting on a few other responses. People signed up for CPR recertification. There'll be 3 morning sessions and 1 afternoon session to accommodate.
Since we have
employees.
AEDs in the buildings, does that include AED use?
Yes, it does. It does. Good transition to the AED project. Thank you.
Actually, can I ask it before you transition? Can I ask what are we doing about a mannequin? Do we?
So Life Support, the company that does the CPR training, will provide the mannequins.
I see. Great.
The AED project, which I've talked to a few of you about, is identifying all the AEDs in the town of Dover and getting them uploaded on the Pulse Point AED app so that anybody using that app can identify an AED close by in the event of a medical emergency. So we have 7 AEDs in town. Town Hall, 2 playing fields, the transfer station, the DPW, the library. What am I forgetting here?
School?
The schools, I did not capture their AEDs because I'd have to set up an appointment. But the value of this is it's been shared with coaches and teams that come into town. Those visiting teams love the app and they're picking up on it. So I think it's getting out in the community and making people aware that these defibrillators are available. I snap a picture and then edit a sentence that say AED can be located in the library near the elevator in the stairwell in the townhouse next to the kitchen on the right-hand wall. So you know exactly where it is.
That's fantastic.
We will need an AED for the community center.
I was just gonna say the exact same thing, so thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to get a quote because this is the same company we used when we did the AEDs, and it's the same company who did the CPR trainings 2 springs ago. I forget what I think we paid. Well, we didn't pay for it. The shared services paid for it, I believe. I think the total for the 4 units was somewhere in the range of like $10,000. So probably looking at around 2,500 for another unit, which well worth it in my opinion.
Yeah.
The more we have around town, the better.
So that's it for CPR. I also found a resource that I think is shared in the drive, a travel clinic in Natick. And this came out of a case that I had in Sherburne where a family had to get rabies vaccine for a bat that was removed from their residence. And the closest place they could go to was Somerville. And the public health nurse in Natick said there is a travel clinic in Natick that will do any vaccine that you're looking for international travel, disease, rabies. Obviously, you have to pay for those, but it's a great resource that I've shared with the Board of Health in both towns.
Steve, you had your hand up?
Yes, the last time I looked, there was rabies vaccine available with Framingham Union's ER. Obviously an expensive way to do it, but it is expeditious.
That is true. That
And
is true.
Newton Wellesley also had a travel clinic. I think that's still in existence.
I will find out. I have a Newton Wellesley appointment next week with their community services, community relations person, just to find out about what resources are available. I don't know how much work it is to schedule an appointment in an emergency room, though, too.
Well, you don't have to. You just walk in as a patient.
But I don't know what it, knowing how overloaded a lot of emergency rooms are, I think a travel clinic might be an easier option, especially this family had young kids that had to be vaccinated.
Well, time is somewhat of the essence. And
Absolutely.
I've
Yeah.
probably ordered rabies vaccine initiation in 100 different cases. So that all of which came through our ER, and
Right.
it's an accepted reason for presenting at the ER.
Understood. I think this family got their initial ones at the ER, but weren't really
After that,
sick.
it becomes problematic for some folks.
Yeah.
But ERs often will accept people for their follow-up shots.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
this actually sorry to digress, but this actually raises an interesting question that maybe we should try to list things like travel clinics on our website too.
It comes up frequently.
Yeah,
Questions about
we've been going to Boston Children's that has a travel clinic for all ages.
Right. But if there's something more convenient and local,
Yeah.
I think people would benefit from it. So that also speaking of hospitals and resources, I met with the BI Needham community relations person just about programs that I wanted to share that are available to members in the community. She was great. Interestingly enough, BI Needham's catchment area for hospitalizations does not include Dover. It serves the communities of Needham, Dedham, Westwood, and not Sherburne. Anyways, they redid their catchment area after Norwood Hospital closed, but they're well aware they get a lot of Dover residents, adult residents at BI Needham.
So if that becomes an impediment for our citizens to be treated and or hospitalized in Needham, that's a large issue that we have to address at some level.
I'm not suggesting it's an impediment. She simply informed me that the catchment area are these towns. They're well aware that people access services, and she was happy for me to share what's available at BI Needham for our residents.
Yeah, it's very unusual for a hospital to not have a contiguous town to where the hospital is located in their catchment area.
Yeah.
In fact, it's bizarre. So I think that's an issue that has to be addressed.
Gail, what do they mean by their catchment area? Is there a formal definition for it?
I didn't ask her about that, but I do think the closure of Norwood Hospital has perhaps redefined what they have as traditional communities that they serve.
I wonder what they mean. It'd be interesting to know what they mean by their catchment area, because to me, it just means the area that a hospital serves not by virtue of any decision that the hospital makes, but by where the residents in the area go for their care.
Yeah, right.
So based on that, the functional reality is we are in their catchment area. But
Right.
so what do they mean when they're saying this?
She simply was mentioning with the closure of Norwood Hospital. But and to keep in mind that BI Needham serves only adults. They triage frequently to Boston, and it does not serve the pediatric population in Dover. So the other hospital that I'll be meeting with will be Newton Wellesley to understand their programs and services available for the rest of our residents. So I think, in conversation that we have a lot of older adults that go to Newton Wellesley too, and are part of the MGB network.
Yeah.
Well, I still think it needs to be explored regarding why Dover is excluded from the BI DMC Needham's catchment area. A considerable number of Dover residents use their facilities, and there are certain Dover residents who contribute mightily to that hospital's programs when they ask for donations. I mean, that seems almost insulting. If that's the truth?
I mean, it was a meeting with their community relations person. I just shared it as information, particularly where I don't know how many people from Dover utilize Norwood Hospital.
Nobody right now.
No, in the past,
in the past, far fewer than any of the other surrounding hospitals.
Okay.
I knew that data.
Okay. Just a comment on the COA. I share all this information with them and expect that they're sharing it with their members too. There are great programs on driving at night, evaluations that can be done, balanced programs. There's a lot at BI Needham, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Newton Wellesley has, particularly in the area of mental health for pediatrics. If you have any other suggestions or thoughts as I meet with these programs, please let me know.
Great. Well, it's helpful to know what is available out there, because we haven't really focused on that before
Mhm.
in any systematic way.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of keeping the information on our website, as long as we update it. I had this, as I was thinking about travel clinic information and links on our website. This is where Suzanne's work combing through our webpage is really useful. I'm assuming, Suzanne, you check links to be sure that they still work and so forth, because it's really important that we make sure we have accurate information.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no links from the CDC on there anymore. Those were all taken off. And most of the links that we do have linked to PDFs or documents or websites rather, that are still either being updated or still exist.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right, Gail, anything else?
No, I think that's, this month I'm reaching out to the local churches in the Dover community too, just to introduce myself and see if there's any, people who participate in those congregations that might benefit from meeting me or talking to me.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Gail, thanks for all your hard work. I know you've been crazy busy since day one, so I just want
Thank
you to
you.
know you're appreciated.
Thank you.
Really great. Yeah. Are there 3 churches in Dover?
Dover Church, St. Dunstan's, Precious Blood.
Oh,
There's
and
one
Grace Church.
Grace.
in Grace Church, 4.
The Grace Church has a preschool, doesn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Dover Church does too.
Yeah.
No one at preschool.
Okey doke. All right, any other questions for Gail? Thank you. And do we have any old business that people would
Yes,
like to?
under old business, I'd like to comment. I was struck by the fact that at town meeting, the Board of Health was not given credit for voting to have its money that we obtained 6 or 7 years ago added to the support of the new online application form and permitting that will be in place hopefully soon. Jason suggested to me that was not deliberate, but just wheels grind slowly, and I hope that's the case.
My understanding is that the town has to figure out, confirm that it can accept those funds. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but that it's not a done deal yet. It's still being talked about.
Mm.
It would be a good idea once they decide they're going to
Yes.
accept funds from us, that to figure out a way to get us some credit for it.
Yeah.
We should think about how we would do that.
Yeah, statue, parade, whatever you guys want.
What a bench.
I just want to see the system up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that'd be the best payoff, actually.
When will it be up and running?
Realistically, probably sometime next year.
Well, they're short money until they get ours.
Yeah.
It'll be ready
No,
in
so,
March.
I mean,
We just
even
don't know
once-
what year.
even once these people come in to get to, to start the rollout, it's still gonna take a while.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be one of those things that happens overnight.
Hmm.
It's a long process.
This is a system you've used before, though, isn't it, Jason?
It is. I led the charge on choosing this particular system, so it's the best system we could have gone with, in my opinion. So should work out just fine. And Kay, by the way, we did skip over an item, so not
we
to
did?
not to backtrack, but I just want to make sure we cover all
Oh.
our bases.
Yep, shared services, that's right. Jason, you want to go ahead and talk about what's been happening with shared services?
Yeah, so just I guess to give kind of a quick update as we do periodically. I'll say it's kind of been weird times for our group. There's been a lot of turnover and changes. Assistant shared services manager just announced she was leaving. She's actually going to be joining the town of Dedham to be their health director, which is a great opportunity for her. I'm happy for her. Shared health agent just left to go work for MHOA. Again, another great opportunity. So we're happy for her. But she was directly supporting us doing our food inspections. So I've taken back over responsibility for those, which isn't a big deal. I mean, there's only a dozen places in town, so fairly manageable. It was just nice because it was kind of one less thing on my plate that I had to deal with. So they're going to be hiring for those couple of positions. Sherborne's had some turnover on their staff, and they're hiring for a health administrator right now, which is more or less a health director. Medfield's doing the same thing. They're looking to build out their health department. So just kind of strange times. There's a lot of missing staff and just all those things going on. Anything I'm missing, Kay, or is that you think that kind of sums it up?
I think that sums it up. You know, I think one of the responsibilities of the assistant director who just announced she's going to Dedham is to be involved in what's called the training hub, right? Sam was 50% in the training hub. Is that right?
I think it was, yeah, something like that. It was a good chunk.
So Steve and John, do you know what the training hub is all about? Have you heard about this?
No.
So the shared services programs around the state are putting together or have put together training resources that can be used by boards of health all over the state or in their regions. And this is this is to address one of the goals of the Department of Public Health with the Excellence in Public Health initiative, which is to improve the quality of services, to raise the bar and to try to have more uniform quality of services around the state. The training hub offers online courses and in-person courses and encourages people to get certified if they're not certified. I think it's actually a great idea. I mean, Jason is eminently qualified, but there are many communities in which the people who work for the boards of health or the health departments are not nearly as qualified as Jason is. Jason, do you want to add anything about the training hub?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much covered it. But I mean, so Sam and Amy are two huge losses for the group. That's kind of what I was driving at.
Yeah.
They were really kind of two foundational pieces. So is what it is. Good people move on to bigger and better things. That's life. So yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting things happening for Medfield, Sherborne, the shared group as a whole, and so just a lot of stuff going on with that.
And you won't be surprised to know that there's a shortage of people who are available to take jobs in local public health or public health at every level, I think. All right.
So Susanna, Sophia, good career choices.
Yes. Wide open.
Yep.
All right. Any other old business?
I'll just say quick too, not necessarily on old business, but just on the summer meetings. I know you guys all already know this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. Just, I guess, kind of be prepared just for the off chance we do need to get together for a last minute meeting. Just, if we have to have some type of vote or some type of emergency hearing, just there's always the chance it could happen. We always make it work when it does, but and obviously now that I've said it, it will happen. So, but just be prepared in case. Steve.
So unfortunately, Jason, you may be prophetic because the town public water supply company's situation is tenuous in terms of being able to supply its customers.
What have you heard?
There's only one line online right now for the inheritor of Colonial and Eversource and whatever they call themselves now, but only Knollwood is operating.
Is it because the other wells are dry, or is
The other
it?
wells have issues of various things, either tapped out or contaminated or dysfunctional. We're down to one.
So who is following this at the town level?
Well, it hasn't been our bailiwick for some time. And if we want to take back water resources, I wouldn't be against it,
So how did you hear about it?
because I discussed with people who know the water situation because they're concerned. I mean, some private citizens know about this.
Well, what would be the options?
Well, MWRA is always one, but most people do not want a complete relationship with MWRA. The one that's on the table, to my knowledge, is one that involves taking water from Westwood that is provided by MWRA, but the agreement would be with Westwood and it would come in through Hartford Street. And that may be a solution that hopefully can be actuated very quickly if something happens to Knollwood.
Well, that's very interesting. So there's a water task force. Is that involved in this?
I would hope so, but
I
again,
don't know.
I think we did a pretty good job when it was under our bailiwick.
Well, if you learn more, will you keep us posted?
Will do.
I mean, it seems like that's something that the selectmen would have to deal with anyway, because the budget for bringing in water, even, down Hartford Street would be, I think, a little bit higher than our Board of Health budget.
No, they've certainly provided the resources to make the water systems happen, though there are some warts there. But it's just that if we have another boil water situation, we were front and center in the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. Definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, I don't know. I've been here 3 years, and it's at least once a year. There always seems to be some type of major-ish issue that comes up, whether it's boil water or whatever the situation is.
And this is not something that the DEP is necessarily going to be involved in. Am I right? Because they're interested in the quality of water, but they're probably not aware of or concerned about the fact that Eversource or whatever it is, what are they called, is using only one well at this time.
So I don't converse at those levels to know. I would hope that they were aware of the situation. And because I do think that they would be concerned if public water systems weren't private, that are owned privately and not providing adequately to the towns they serve.
My sense is that the DEP contacts us when there are concerns about public water supplies in Dover, that they inform us, just FYI. Do they
Yes.
always do that, Jason?
Yes.
Yes.
Anytime there's any type of deficiencies or anything like that, we always at least will get CC'd.
But this kind of vulnerability might not be something that would get onto the DEP's radar, because there's no active problem, there's just the potential for a problem.
Correct. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. Because you're right. I mean, they're looking at quality. Public water systems are heavily regulated in that regard, all by the DEP. But in terms of volume and being able to provide to customers, I don't know that that's anything they take into account. That's more of the town's issue.
Well, we should do some looking around here. All right. Anything else?
Nope, we're still very efficient today.
Yeah. Under 2 hours. Not our best, but pretty good. Sophia, welcome to the Board of Health, and we're happy to have you join us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. I'm sure you'll get involved in lots of projects, and hopefully they'll all be interesting for you.
I look forward to it.
Good. Great. Okay, motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
All in favor? I, Kay Peterson.
I, Stephen Questcall.
And I, John Quackenbush.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Suzanne. And thank you to our new member, Sophia.
Good
All
night.
right.
everybody.
Night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Good night.